Hey guys, this is Echo Soundworks with ADSR, and you are checking out a first look video where we're going to be testing out the new granular based synthesizer from Audio Damage, and it's called Quanta. All right, so real quick, let's talk about what granular synthesis is. For those of you who don't know much about it, I think it'll be helpful. So when I'm walking through the features of Quanta, you'll have a little bit better understanding. Now, if you know about this, skip ahead a little bit. So you can see here it says sample and then drop audio file. So if I dropped, say, a marimba file into here, it's not going to play back the marimba sample as I hear it on my computer. What it's going to do is it's going to break down that audio file into what's called grains, which is really, really small bits of audio. And then what you can do is you can control the playback rate of those grains down in this section. There's even a shape control, kind of the position, and how long those different grains overlap. Now, the idea of this is that all audio can be broken down into these really small grains. If you guys use Serum, you guys know that wavetables, 256 cycles or frames, right? Even smaller than that, much smaller. Now, what this allows you to do is it allows you to take the timbre, the color, a small snapshot within that audio file, and then kind of basically loop it back and forth with the grain control, and then play it up and down your keyboard for an immediate kind of a very complex waveform as a starting point, right? So some of the sounds you can get in a synth like Quanta, you'd be very, very hard pressed, if not impossible, to get them in, say, a synth like Silent. Now, I'm not saying, one's better than the other, just different flavors, different colors for sure. So that's kind of in a really quick nutshell, a little bit basic, almost oversimplified version of what's going on, but that's essentially what is happening. We're going to import an audio sample. It's going to analyze it, kind of deconstruct it into these grains, and then reconstruct it so you can play it back and then have control over those grains. All right, so let's dive into the actual features of Quanta. First, I do want to touch that you can resize it, which is great. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for the rest of this video. All right, so the top half of Quanta is where you're going to find presets, drag and drop your audio samples, and then control the sound, the playback with your envelope, which is called FEG for Flexible Envelope Generator. You guys might know more as a multi-seg or multi-stage envelope where you can drag and click and create as many points as you want or need. So it's not tethered by like the kind of conventional norms of attack, decay, sustain, release, right? Then there's the FLFO. These are your LFOs. You get two of them, as well as a sample and hold feature. And the F, again, stands for flexible. It's because you can take the shape of each LFO and morph in between shapes, right? So you can go in between a kind of a saw wave or a sine wave and get intermediate points within. Then there is the mod matrix, which looks a lot like Wavetable's mod matrix in Ableton. So I thought that was pretty neat. All right, then under that, you have your oscillator control section, the grains, and your filter and your output. So there are no effects, but that makes sense kind of because Audio Damage makes effects plugins. So the oscillator here, this is not your main oscillator. This is kind of like a bonus oscillator. Your main oscillator, if you want to think of it as an oscillator, is up here, the sample drop audio file. This, if we just start playing a sound when we load up the synth, sounds like that, right? It sounds kind of like a virtual analog sound. That's because this oscillator is there to add virtual analog waveforms to your otherwise granular based sounds, which is pretty cool. So we can just turn that off for now. Then you have a noise generator as well. Right? Pretty big spectrum of the sound. And of course you have your filter over here. Now this grain section won't do anything until we actually load a sample into Quanta and actually have grains to work with. So let's do that now. So I'm going to move Logic over and let's load in this sound right here. All right, so just going to drag and drop. So Quanta can handle WAV, AIFF, MP3, pretty much any file format you want to throw at it, it will take it. So if I just play this now, right, it sounds similar to that sound, but not identical. If I move my position here within the grains, right, it sounds a lot different, right? We're changing where it's kind of playing back within those grains. Now I can actually change the number of grains. Let's take the position and let's actually turn this random control up. So now every time I hit a key, it's kind of spreading out where within the grains it's starting to trigger and play back. And of course, you can modulate through that. So we can go to, let's take one of our LFOs here, and we'll just create a shape like this. Let's go to our matrix. We want FLFO1, FLFO1. We want it to go to the grain position. So and now we can visually see that happening here on the actual sample that we imported. All right, so let's check out some of the other features as we run through some of the presets, the patches, because it'll just be a little bit easier to kind of kill two birds with one stone. We can hear more of what's going on with Quanta, and we can, kind of see it in more of a real-time look. So let's go to the preset browser, and let's go and load up. Let's go to the factory. Let's load up. Let's start with basic patches. Let's try the echo pluck, the key sound. So I do have a little bit of reverb happening from a third-party plug, just to give it a little bit more space and vibe. All right, so that's what we got. So let's go back to the actual main editing one. We can see here that there's a file that says pad2c4. So that's what's creating this sound. So let's go back. We can see here is the actual sample that's being analyzed by Quanta. So this patch right here is the position is set to 0, and our grains are quite low. The playback position, which is going to be how it plays back. You have forward, you have reverse, play direct, you have random. It's set to forward. So let's actually move these around. Let's go to reverse right now. Right. Slight change, but definitely a noticeable difference. All right, so let's go to reverse, and let's actually move our position around, right? So if this was kind of a pad or a pluck sound to begin with, if we move more into the middle, it's going to get less noticeable at the attack stage of the sound. If we move one of our envelopes around the starting point, it can be a pad sound in pretty much no time flat, right? Let's turn our filter up as well. All right, so let's look at the modulation real quick, because that's quite unique and quite cool. So let's say I wanted to move through the position of the grains here, right? As well as randomize those, say with one of my envelopes. So let's do that let's go to envelope 3, and we're going to create a nice kind of pad shape here. So I'm going to delete that point just so it's pretty subtle and chill. So it's a nice ramp up, right? So let's go to our matrix, and now we're going to find the position of our grain. So grain position, we want FEG3, so our third envelope. Let's turn that up a bit. And the grain position random, let's turn that up as well. So now if I go back to our main sample section here and I play it, we're going to see that moving occur. Right, now if you remember, this patch initially sounded like this. This was the original patch. And this is what we did. Right, and if I wasn't explaining it as I did it, that would have taken maybe 10, 15 seconds. So really easy to tweak the sounds inside of Quanta. So let's check out a couple more patches. So one of my favorite patches that I ran across was in the soundscape. It's called Tin Can Guitar. That's pretty crazy. So let's go and see what's going on with the actual patch. Now you notice that the start position is pretty much at 0 here. So if we take it more into the middle, it kind of becomes more of like a Foley type pad. Well, here's a really cool, interesting feature in Quanta. You can actually run your oscillator, your virtual analog oscillator, right? The one that has the sine waves, the saw waves, etc., into the grains, right? So it doesn't have to be independent from them. So I could turn this up here, and that's what it's doing, right? But let's turn that level down, and we'll kind of turn this into like a kind of a mellow square. And let's take the oscillator in and route that in. We can do the same thing with the noise. right? So we just added a really low sine wave to it. So that's a pretty unique feature. I like that. And let's change the playback from random to, let's do reverse on this right now. Again, this would be an awesome layer to a pad coming from, say, Silent or some kind of more basic virtual analog synth. And we started with something that was less pad-like and more of just like as a soundscape, right? Sound like this. All right, so let's go through some of the other patches. I really liked the Artist Series Marcus Fisher patches. Let's play the one Blue Glockenspiel. So you get two filters inside of Quanta, and you can run them in serial or parallel, right? So this one is in parallel, and I can, take this notch filter here, move it around, and the first filter is set to kind of take out all the low frequencies, right? And you can, of course, modulate through these. If you go to your matrix, you can modulate through any of the filter's frequencies with any of your envelopes or your LFOs. So pretty cool stuff in terms of what you can do with adding movement to the sound. Not to mention actually adding movement with the position and the random moving through your grains. So let's go back to these presets. So this specific folder I really liked because there was stuff that sometimes was like, oh yeah, that'd be a great ambient bed maybe for like the intro of a song. And then other ones I was like, oh, like this would just be perfect for the start of a song, right? Then have your music come in over it, or just have that not at the start, but just tucked under, right? Just as kind of the bed, the tonic bed. And then there are other patches that I could just envision as, being used in a beat or a track right away. So let's say you find a patch that you like in terms of what's going on with, maybe there's some interesting modulation setup, the filters, whatever may be going on. You can actually replace the audio file in the patch. So if you just want to replace your source, the source content essentially coming from the Granular engine, you could do that and then don't have to go through and remake something with a lot of LFO assignments or your envelope assignments, that sort of stuff. So I thought that was a pretty neat little feature to kind of tuck in there. Let's go through a couple more presets here. Let's go through a few more of these. Let's try old piano. All right, pretty cool, pretty musical and melodic. Love that one. You hear that the noise is in that as well as the normal oscillator. All right, so that's going to sum up this look, guys. We touched on a good amount of the features and things that are included in the synth. I don't want to turn this into a full-fledged tutorial. You can find out more about the in-depth features and everything you need to know on Audio Damage, Audio Damage's actual site, but this should be more than enough to kind of give you an appetizer of what it's all about. I've used probably about 5 or 6 granular-based synths, and I gotta say, I really like this one. It's simple and effective and easy to use, but you can push it to go deeper and further if you need it to. But in terms of just loading in a sample, dragging and dropping, and tweaking it for a few minutes, being off and running, it definitely has that going for it, which I really like. So if you guys have any questions or comments, let me know below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit that like and subscribe button. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm Echo Soundworks. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you next time.